you have to have these difficult conversations.
So the movement is about equality.
Black Americans.
That was a really intense debate.
Let's just keep it strictly about facts and we'll be good.
I mean, this is a verbal fight. I mean,
it is.
We invite you to be a part of the league and participate in actually debating.
Can you hear me now?
Good evening, Great Debate League. I am your moderator and host for this evening, Dr. Mutor Flood. We appreciate you for taking part in tonight's debate. I hope that you can stay with us until the end as we rely on your votes to determine who is the greater debater. Tonight's premise, Black capitalism is a beneficial practice for Black people in America. So arguing the affirmative is going to be Brian Thorne. He is a native of Pasadena, California, and a student of Dr. Claude Anderson's work, Powernomics, and creator of Vert Theroy, a business endeavor focused on Black people serving Black people in industry. Arguing the negative is going to be Kenny Barnes, all right? And Kenny's a Chicago native and self-educated with a focus on human and social issues. Now for some guiding definitions for tonight's debate. The first is we're going to define the term beneficial, and that's favorable or advantageous, resulting in good. Next definition is going to be practice, right? And that's going to be the actual application or use of an idea, belief, or method as opposed to theories relating to it. The next term is African Americans. That's going to be a Black person or other person of African ancestry currently living or born in the United States. Then we'll have a definition on capitalism that's based on 4 basic parts. That is capital accumulation, commodity production, private ownership of the means of production, and the primacy of wage labor. This is going to be an unranked debate. And like all of personal attacks of any kind, no profanity, and no interrupting. Both participants are allowed to call a fact check timeout only during one of their designated speaking times. This episode of the Great Debate League is brought to you by Call Her Creative. Call Her Creative provides custom designs of most any kind in crafts, fashion, and graphic design. Allow them to provide you their services. We will now begin round 1. These are going to be our opening statements. Each participant will provide an uninterrupted opening statement. We will begin with Brian Thorne arguing the affirmative. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Thorne.
Hey, how's it going out there in the audience? First, I want to start off today opening up with what would a civil rights leader think about Black capitalism being beneficial for Black people? Well, in 1968, Martin Luther King gave a speech titled, "I've Been to the Mountaintop," where it seems like he had a new change in objective perspective that he applied to the situation that he was in at the time. He was fighting for people's rights to form and participate in unions, well, Black people's rights to form and participate in unions, where they would be able to capitalize on their skill. And he was also telling Black people to put money in Black-owned banks. He literally said, we got to strengthen Black institutions. I call upon you to take money out of the banks downtown and deposit your money in the Tri-State Bank. We want a banking movement in Memphis. So he advocated for building a greater economic base. So if you look at that, the practice of Black capitalism is not a new concept. It's almost a necessity to function independently as in a white Western white racist capitalistic system. In fact, many cities before him embodied his objectives, and pretty much they all carried the label Black Wall Street. So the black businesses of Black Wall Street were able to create black middle classes, although wealth was centered mainly like within the people that actually had the wealth. But still, many people also were able to benefit from that. We have cities like Durham, North Carolina, Birmingham, Alabama, Jackson Ward, Virginia, which was also called the birthplace of capitalism. Now, if we look at Jackson Ward, Virginia, we can see back in 1903, Maggie Walker got money from a black society called the Independent Order of St. Luke. And she was able to take that money and with two smaller banks, she merged them together and opened up a St. Luke Penny Savings Bank. Now, this bank made loans to qualified borrowers who were shunned by traditional banks such as black doctors, lawyers, and entrepreneurs. And Jackson Ward was also a huge place for civil rights. From 1871 to 1905, they were big with black commerce and entertainment, and they were also called the Harlem of the South, which put out artists like Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, James Brown, to name a few. So if we look at capitalism, it's not just the people that were getting the profit from the efforts, but also the people that benefited from it. So if we see that black ownership has historically been a strong wealth builder for communities of color. Well, nationally, the median worth right now is about 10 times for black owners than it is for just regular black employees. And they generate $150 billion of wealth with less than 1% of the wealth, and they employ over 107,000 black people.
All right, thank you, Brian Thorne, for your opening statement. And now for Kenny Barnes, arguing the negative, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, I think it's time we began to look at capitalism as a burden to human development and not simply a tool to go eat with. What is the nature of this system of capitalism? Social harmony, self-interest. Capitalists today have never been richer than they before, and they have managed to grab hold and hoard majority of the wealth each year, not because they are smarter or they're working harder or it's because they're taller or better looking. It's none of those reasons. It's because the wealth of the wealthy comes from the poverty of the poor. We are born, and to some of us who happen to be born black, we are forced to comply and to labor for the system that has stolen the surplus of our labor to be used against our interests. The problem of our generation is freeing man from economic, political, and social enslavement, to reconstruct the economic life from the people, from the ground up, and build it up in a spirit of freedom and injustice. We free man from the labor that has an economic strangle on gold. The goal of the working class is liberation from exploitation, and you cannot reach this goal if you are going to direct and govern a class on top of it. Capitalism, in a way, which promised a technological utopia with the individual at the heart of it, created a society dominated by work and money, seen by an uncompromising bureaucracy. However, the idea that the more you work and the less you have to suffer has been tainted from the moment work done and it was appraised for in the form of currency. The day that it was agreed upon that man would only receive the wage he could secure for himself, the whole history of a state-aided capitalist society was as good as infected with a germ. So the question must be asked in 2021 going forward. Is this the only way to go? Is this natural order of humanity? Earth has enough for every man's need, but not enough for every man's greed. The fruits of capitalism produce homeless people and peopleless homes. And there are enough peopleless homes to give each homeless person 6 of these homeless homes. Yet there are cold and homeless people, and my opponent would like to believe that these practices would liberate black people. I would ask how so? Black Jeff Bezos, does that mean black folks should take the position as moral teachers of this planet? There ought to be no justice without global justice, and global equality can only be achieved when cultures enter into a dialogue based on mutual respect and agreement on different forms of knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. We will now begin round 2. This is a lightning round. which allows for an open cross-examination between both participants to exchange and interrogate their opponent's position. This is a shared time frame for both debaters. Audience, please listen carefully and pose your questions for our debaters as the audience Q&A is the next round. This round is 15 minutes. You may begin.
Gotta close, Brian.
Yeah,
I got
so
it.
okay, go ahead.
All right. So let's say, for example, Brian, you're on a plane and you're off to go to have vacation, you and your family, but the plane accidentally, let's just say hypothetically, it crashes, and you and one other person are the only survivors, right? You're the only survivors on this plane. Now he woke up before you. So you wake up, you find out that he done lined all the coconuts up, he done lined all the tree barks up, and he done set them to the side, and he said, "This is mine." Now you got just fresh off a plane crash, you know what I mean? What you mean it's yours? And how are you just gonna assume ownership over all of this stuff that's already here? And he's like, "Yeah, well, this is mine. If you choose to work for me, then I'll give you some of it." Would you think that that's a fair system?
No, I don't think it's fair because there was no pre-conversation about what was going to happen. It was no business deal. It was he basically said what he was going to do. So I don't see how that could be a fair thing.
The thing is, he was just like him. We were born into this. You see what I'm saying? So that was my only thing about it. Like, I didn't agree to live in a capitalist society. I didn't agree to, what I'm saying, exchange my worth and what I feel like my time is worth to whatever you can literally bargain for. You know what I mean? I think that the idea that all this stuff is already owned by people who legally can say, like, I could just do it is wrong. Don't you think so?
I don't think so. I think it was because we have previous agreements where these people have previous agreements for how to petition the stuff, and we come into the world with nothing. So really, realistically, we can really expect nothing because we came in the world with nothing. So everything else is a benefit. So on that note, let me ask you a question. Do you see any benefits in capitalism?
No. No. As a matter of fact, capitalism, if you look at its overall arching, you said you're from California, right?
Yeah,
Look
I'm
at
from
LA.
California.
Look at LA and ask a homeless person in LA, do you see any benefits to capitalism? I mean, it's only so few people in the world who can actually say that capitalism is actually doing something for them. And those few people are gonna have that, those gonna be the ones that with their head on the plate. Because those are the ones that are stealing from everybody else. I don't see any long-term beneficial goal, like, you know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, with the benefit, it has to have some sort of advantage. You know what I'm saying? But you're really not putting yourself at an advantage. You're really just, in a way, drawing the arrow back, and you're just gonna shoot yourself. And that's the thing about it. Like I said, we're destroying the world with capitalism. You know what I mean? Like, we produce so much stuff and junk that the entire planet is being
So let
destroyed
me ask
because
you a
of
question.
people's.
Yeah, so where would we be without capitalism? Where would we be without the capital to add on top of the stuff that we have in order to produce bigger things, stuff that we cannot produce alone?
Where would we be without capitalism?
Yeah, where would we be without the ability? Okay.
Probably back home in Africa, living well, bro. Remember, capitalism is the reason why we're over here. And a lot of people want to point out the fact that, oh, if we'd have left you in Africa, you wouldn't have none of this stuff. Be clear. If you'd have left us in Africa, you would have never had none of this stuff. You brought us over here, you feel me? Because you seen that it was an advantage to it. So the thing is, without capitalism, where would we be? We would be back home. We would be living pretty well. There's plenty of stories of, like, you know what I'm saying? One of the slaves, Venture Smith, he was actually he was born in Africa, and he indentured servitude in Africa. He gained his freedom from servitude only to find his town ransacked by slave raiders, to be enslaved in this system over here and gain his freedom, and he lived to write and talk about it. You know what I mean? So his experience in Africa tells about, like, how things were without, like, colonization, and, you know what I'm saying, with the implementation of, like, you know what I'm saying, white greed is ultimately, which is at the heart of all of this greed. You know,
So do you
there
believe
is
that
no.
nobody's entitled to have personal property?
I don't think that. I don't think that people should have to rent themselves. I believe that you should have your own personal property, of course. Like if you have a home, nobody's disturbing you. But the issue is you have 18 homes. And out of your 18 homes, you're about to put out a pregnant, woman who may have, let's just say, for example, COVID and not the means to pay her rent. And you're just going to put her out. That's the moral system we live in. And it says, like, if you can't pay your rent, then that's it. But you got 16 homes, my guy. You got so many odd homes. You can't sleep in all these homes. But you're putting people out because the system of capitalism said that's not beneficial to let them sleep there without money. So, you know what I'm saying? The system of capitalism, if we put a black face on top of it, we'll be only doing what the white man is really doing to us already, which is the system is failing, by the way, because in the effort of just keeping us down, you could travel all throughout this country and you can see poor white neighborhoods. You can see poor white people actually fed up with this system. You see what I'm saying? So for us to
Yeah.
invest
So,
in the system.
but capitalism doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't the only way to implement capitalism. This is a white racist capitalism that we're living under. So capitalism basically deals with property rights, being able to hold property, being able to gain profit from your property. So in saying that, do you know how to build a house? Can you build your own house?
Not by myself.
Well, I
No, I
mean,
can't.
generally, can most people build a house? Well, how do we get to the point where we can start building houses as we have as such with different walls and rooms? How is this possible without capitalism? What will we be left to?
We will be left with mutual respect for each other. I envision a society where we trade off skills, a society where every man has a skill. We have a certain skill, and not one person really does one thing. We all do it. We all know how to make houses. You know what I mean? And when we make houses, they don't blow away in tornadoes and they don't get swept away in hurricanes. These houses that last forever. This is some of the best stuff that we have to offer. And the thing is, I envision a society where education is at its peak. You can't have that in a capitalist society. Under a capitalist society, people have to dumb down. People have to be dumbed down to a worker's level. They can't have the ownership or they can't have the understanding of cooperation. They can't have the understanding of cooperative, movement toward a better humanity. Yo, you got like a real top-down system going on there, and it's going to create class, and it's going to create, clashes of people within our community. You know what I mean?
So you preach communism. Is that what you want? Is that what you believe? Communism, everybody should just join in and share and work and share an effort. How has
I'm
that
not
worked in
for
the past?
I'm not for any particular method of, doing this. I'm for whatever method works. That's not communism, that's not socialism, that's for whatever works. But at the end of the day, when we look at the system that we live in, like I said, being from California, I've seen Skid Row. All right. I've seen what capitalism does. And on top of the Skid Row, on top of that, that's some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. I'm from Chicago. That's some of the worst homelessness I've ever seen. And to add insult to injury, some of those people work full-time jobs, full-time jobs, but they can't afford housing. So you telling me at the end of the day, this person is literally told to work or starve, not work or lose your house, not work or lose your car, not work or, what I'm saying, you ain't gonna be able to dress fly, work or you just can't eat. And I mean
Yeah. So this is
90%.
one of the reasons. So this
Go
is one
ahead.
of the reasons that I'm an advocate for Black capitalism. I think those people are not capitalists. Those people are income earners. Income earners are not capitalizing on they're not capitalizing on anything. They're not capitalizing on their property. They're not capitalizing on their time or effort. So
Well,
that's why I
I
think,
mean, but you gotta understand, an income earner is a capitalist, bro. That's a capitalist. An income earner is a capitalist. Somebody who brings in tens of millions of dollars in a fiscal year, that's a capitalist. You know what I mean? And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. If we say we're going to have let's say we have a society where we say we're going to get rid of crime, we're going to have a society where we're going to get rid of homelessness, we're going to have a society where healthcare is universal, we're going to have a society where education is optimal. You're not talking about a capitalist society because under capitalism,
how
all
about
those
this?
things have to be stifled. Understand that
Let me,
capitalism only allows for so much to get out. You understand what I'm saying? For example, they don't make you a phone, and they could, but they don't make you a phone where the screen don't break. Well, why don't they? Because a broke screen is more money, right? You know what I mean? They won't make you a phone that'll last forever because we need you to buy the 10, 11, 12, 13, and so forth. You understand what I'm saying? But they have the technology, like I said, to put you hundreds of years into the future. You know what I'm saying? But what they have now, The thing is, it's not beneficial to capitalism. Why would I give you the best of the best when at the end of the day, it's just not good for my pockets? Think about that. How well would the society be
Right.
ran if we had it, you know what I'm saying, where people were actually dumbed down to that level? Think of a society where, like I said, think of it like this. In Africa, and I'm not going to use any specific area, but just think for a second. When you see their art, you don't see any specific artists. You know what I'm saying? You know where the art's from. You probably know the tribe in the area, but there's not any particular artist. That's because the people produced it. And that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? We are producers. And once we start producing things, we don't need to exchange it for paper. You know what I'm saying? We create something. We have something that you want. You know what I mean? Everybody loves our music. They love our craft. They love everything about us. So give us something. You know,
Let
we
me
don't
use an
want money.
example from right now. Let me use an example that kind of like negates. You saying that, so if people make something, that people are automatically going to gravitate towards it and they're going to support it. I doubt that. I think somebody has to promote it. Because if you look at music, why would you wonder why artists go to a label when they could just promote their music for themselves? They can promote their
Right,
music for themselves and keep it amongst themselves, but they go to somebody that can make it bigger than what it is, somebody that can capitalize on it, somebody that can
right.
give it more wealth and value so that more people see it.
How old are you, good brother?
So,
You.
what was that?
I said, how old are you?
Well, I'm
How
36.
old are you? 36. So you know good and well this music is trash. You know good and well this music is
We
trash.
talking about
And if they
we
and
talking
if they
about
make it,
capitalism.
and if they make it, it'll sell. They sell trash music. And I mean they sell millions of this junk. Millions of junk. That stuff that you and I and probably the viewers alike know that this ain't no real, this ain't good music. But at the end of the day, it's in the hand of a capitalist who is ultimately trying to achieve a goal. Now, the thing is, whether or not it's good or not, it doesn't matter. It sells. Now, the thing is, I advocate for a system that says we sell good stuff. All right. Everything, the things that we put forward is good. It's quality. It's not backed by a capitalist system. It's backed by the people who actually want to see the best out of each other. You know what I'm saying? When you as a plumber
Let me change tack. Let me change tacks and switch this up real quick. Before you said that the purpose of people working was for to be free, the working class was to be free or something like that. What was that you said?
the goal of the working class is free from economic exploitation. That means the
And
ability
you
to not have to go through life and have an owner or a boss or somebody who controls and manages what time you eat and regulate what time you pee. We don't need that. We have enough
so
in
let me
this
ask
day
you a
and age.
question. If under your view, where people just work for what they have and they don't get nothing extra, would people be liberated from work? Where would the liberation be found in that?
What do you? I don't understand your question.
You're saying that the purpose of the people that work is to be free. And I'm
Mhm.
asking, what are they being free of? What is work going to liberate them of? What is work
Well,
going to get them free of?
right now, what we're going through is what they call wage slavery, where you got a system that says it's voluntary, but if you don't work, you can lose your house and years away your life. That's not a voluntary
Excuse
system.
me, excuse me. I mean, under your system where we abolish capitalism and replace it with a system that hasn't been created yet. What would be the purpose of people working? Of course, they're going to have to work to make their
Well,
own shoes, make their own pants, make their own belts, make their own t-shirts, houses, rugs, windows. They're going to
that's
have to make their own cars. So,
right.
what do you
But
see
that's
the
what
purpose
work
of
is.
work under that
That's
term?
what work is. Work is the free faculties of man. Work is me choosing to work with the group to meet a certain ends. When we get together and we work on something, it's a project. We're trying to get something done. We're not stuck in a rat race of life. Send up here, I'm gonna stick you in a McDonald's job and then pay you the absolute worst and demand the absolute most. You know, I see that as an inconvenience, you know what I'm saying? But in capitalism, that serves as a function and it's not a
Was
function.
there
You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying?
was there ever a
Some of these
time when people were liberated from work? Was there ever a time when people did not work?
I mean, I don't think that that's so much as the issue because the thing is, let's say for example, slavery. Um, Not too long ago, slavery was the normal thing in life. But the fact that it was wrong and the fact that people had to, get it out of they had to talk about it and they knew it was wrong and they had to fix it, they had to change it, they had to uproot it was a conversation that had to happen. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but it's gotta happen. You know, I'm not gonna keep being the slave. How you gonna stop it? I don't know, but I tell you what, it ain't right, and it needs to stop. And that's where it starts. It starts as a conversation. But just because it didn't happen, that doesn't mean that it can't happen. You understand what I'm saying? It means it needs to
Yeah.
happen.
So that makes so what you're saying is since people have to work, it makes capitalism unbeneficial for blacks. But at the end of the day, people have to work regardless. So the way that capitalism helps black is that capitalism actually empowers blacks, where blacks have the actual discretion and the direction of where their business is going and where these employers are working with them are going. So do you not think that blacks having the power and choosing their own excuse me time?
Can't hear you, Neil.
All right. That was a very exciting cross examination. We will now we're going to begin round three. This is our audience question and answer round. We invite our audience to submit questions for the debaters. Each participant will be given the chance to respond to each question uninterrupted. Please submit your questions now. As we bring up our audience questions, please support our growth by donating to our Cash App, $ the Great Debate League, and check us out on our YouTube channel, the Great Debate League Incorporated, and become a member of our Patreon page. We are also on Instagram, and you can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and iHeartRadio. We also want to remind you to check out our sponsor, Call Her Creative. And now we will take our first audience question. And that is, can you identify two specific advantages or disadvantages of capitalism for Black Americans? I will give that up to Mr. Thorne. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
So two specific advantages of Black capitalism for Black Americans is that Black Americans have the ability to choose their own future. We have to remember that the main thing that identified and subjugated us as Black was in placing us as property so that we don't own property. The main thing was removing our ability to own property, but through Black capitalism, we have the ability to own property, and we also have the ability to capitalize on our property, to build from the stuff that we already have. And this enables us to have our own future destiny where we're able to decide what goes where, how this goes where. If you look at it, if you look at the some of the Black cities that I've mentioned, such as Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Jackson Ward, Virginia, you'll see that all those entertainers, the James Brown, the Ella Fitzgerald, they were able to perform in there unmolested by the white population because they had a Black capitalist economy that supported them. They had Black hotels, they had Black stores, shoe stores. We talk about racism all the time, but in order to not feel the effects of racism, we have to be in places where we see Black faces.
All right. Time. Thank you, Mr. Thorne. I'm going to give that question to Mr. Barnes. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
I just want to say, for the record, in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they were definitely molested. And I mean, that's just one area of how I'm gonna say just capitalism doesn't work. But I want that to be my two prime examples. One prime example is slavery. I don't even. It's a real touchy subject for me, but just put it plain and simple. You were the capital. You know, if you're a Black person, we were the capital. We were actually being traded. So that's first off, that capitalism is bad because it'll turn you into the capital. But another way is I'm from Chicago, and I wanted to touch on a specific moment here in a specific area where they had one failing school, and speaking on the ethics of capitalism, this failing school was set side by side with a charter school. And the charter school was, full of people from other communities and stuff like that. And they came into the area and they set their school up. And I mean, right next door to the failing school. And they said like, oh, we don't want all your kids. We just want some of the kids. And you know who some of the kids are. We don't want the good ones. We don't want the best and the bright ones, and forget the other ones. So all the kids in like this one school, because of like failing programs and because of just capitalism itself, the school was closed. And then the charter school wouldn't take them all. The charter school said, we're gonna take the best of the best. So now you got a whole school with buildings and books, and the kids can't get an education because somebody's pocket didn't get lined. You know what I mean? We can give you more examples. You can go into waste slavery, about how that just takes the surplus labor off of most of the things that regular people do with service jobs like that. The idea that you're gonna work for, all right, well,
Time. All right. So our next question is, Brian said in his opening statement, and this is from our member Stanley Elliott. Brian said in his opening statement that Black business owners are doing better than their employees. Doesn't this go against your argument? Brian, I'll have you answer that question. You have a minute and 30 seconds.
Well, we're talking about capitalism. We're talking about a situation where people capitalize on the things that they have and the things they own. So it's not a negative for somebody to be winning or somebody to be in a more positive position or in a more wealthier position than somebody else from capitalizing on their items. But still, in fact, while this person is capitalizing, he has employed the out of the 107 thousand Black businesses, they employ 920,000 people. These 920,000 people have the ability to be in the middle class. So far, if we look at New York, you'll see that they have one of the highest percentages of Black business owners, but they also have the ability to pay their businesses almost $40,000 a year. And this creates a middle class where Black people are living comfortable inside of their situations. So even though these employees are not having as much wealth or as much capital as the person that's initiating it, they're still able to live a better life than having to go out there and fend for themselves and be able to find out how to make things happen on their own or with their own wealth or with their own assets. So I don't think it takes away from the argument if you look at the pluses instead of focusing on the negatives. Oh, I still got some time. Okay, well, look, yeah, so they win, everybody wins. In a capitalist system with Black
Go for it.
beneficial, where Black centered, if it's a Black capitalist organization, that means they're putting Black before capitalism. So these other Black people are also able to benefit also.
All right, that's time, Mr. Thorne. All right, so this question is for Kenny. Kenny, how can we build on capitalism to benefit Black people?
I didn't get into this on the debate, but I really wanted to, man. I wish I had more time, but you can't. You just can't. You cannot, because the thing is with capital, it's coded in law, and I thought we was able to get that in debate, but I guess I'll do my best now. With the whole GameStop and Reddit fiasco, you know what I mean? How basically the system creates laws to keep you down. Because remember, we're not trying to get rid of it. There is no society. The American people are not, or the American system, I should say, is not trying to remove inequality. No time soon. No way, no how. You understand what I'm saying? So the idea that the rich are gonna just somehow, pull us up to where they at, that's not true. That's not true. A lot of these rich people actually have the potential to solve a lot of these issues and get this, still be the richest people, but they won't do it because it's bad for business. You know what I mean? It's not good for capital. And that's all they care about. They don't care about the people, they care about the capital. It's profit over people. I think that once we decide to start working for each other, once we decide to start working with each other, the mutual respect and the that we should have for each other with our jobs, our leaders will stop you'll stop having stuff like leaders getting paid off. You'll stop having stuff like spies, you know what I'm saying, compromise, trying to get some money that they couldn't spend no way. So I don't think capitalism is good at all. It's trash, and we should adopt it. We should abandon it. We should burn it. We should set it on fire. Eat the rich. It's not beneficial. It's
All
not
right,
good.
time. Okay. So question, and this is from a person I know very well, my sister. All right, question. How does capitalism affect Blacks today, not during slavery? I'll give that first to Mr. Thorne.
Yeah, so capitalism does affect Black people today. We obviously know that the current system of capitalism was built on Black people, but we're actually talking about Black capitalism. We're talking about Black people putting their money together to own properties with each other that are going to actually help Black people. We're actually talking about something that a subdivision of capitalism. So if we focus on Black capitalism, we'll see that there are benefits, and the benefits are in the things I just described. Black people being able to go out to their own industries, Black people being able to have jobs where they don't feel discrimination against because of the color of their skin or because of who they were born into. We have situations where Black people could choose the environments they're in. If we look at stuff like the real bad parts of capitalism inside this white American capitalism is that they hold all the industries, they hold all the railways, they hold all the internet, they hold all the communication channels, all of that stuff. Black people only have 1% of the industries. Let me look at this chart real quick and let you guys know. Black people only have 18 businesses in utilities, 21 in mining, 165 in agriculture. If we look at agriculture alone, white people have a 95% monopoly in agriculture. By Black people having Black capitalism and owning Black farms, we're able to choose how these farms are produced. I mean, choose how the food is produced and choose how the food is distributed. So,
And it's time. All right, I'll give this question back over to you, Miss Kenny. Go for it.
It's good. All right. All right. I mean, I'll just give you a location since we're talking about the Black community and how does capitalism affect us today. Let's take a trip to Flint, Michigan. You understand what I'm saying? And you see the people that are actually being poisoned. And when he just said like, "Oh, it gives you a option to live and a choice to live," it doesn't. As much as you want it to seem like it does not. It's completely backwards. You got this whole thing wrong. You got to switch it around. And the thing is, it doesn't, because those people in Michigan, they can't go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? A lot of their finances are tied up into the communities in which they live in, and on top of that, they're being poisoned. They're being poisoned by the water system that, you know what I'm saying, that the governor put in place there. And he did it all for the benefit of some money so he could get rich. So fuck them. I mean, excuse me, forget them in words. And you know what I'm saying? So what? Build the pipeline. I mean, they say some of the freshest water there. But you literally see with the entire state of Detroit, a corrupt system due to capitalism. All right. Capitalism and politics. All right. Along with the power of the state. That right there is pure in itself, a prime example of what capitalism is doing to the Black America, the state of Michigan. Just go to Detroit, go anywhere in there, and talk to the Black community, and then look at how many Black people actually like capitalism and living in the ghetto. And you know what I'm saying, living next door to abandoned buildings and it's all trash, you know, and stuff. They actually, you know what I'm saying, just in a way, they just, it's Stockholm syndrome. I don't know what to call it.
All right, time. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for this Q&A round. And now we've come to our closing statements. Each participant will provide an uninterrupted closing statement. We will hear the affirmative closing statement from Brian. You have 3 minutes.
yeah, in closing, I want to highlight the fact that we're actually focusing on Black capitalism, that Black people have the power to come together and build and own things on their own selves. We've had numerous Black cities in the past, and we can have numerous Black cities in the future. We understand that capitalism is not the greatest thing as far as the current implementation, but capitalism has to have an implementation because by itself is an inert. It's a system of thoughts and beliefs. It's a way to do things. It's a way to do things, not a how to do things. So if we look at Black capitalism, we have to see that basically, in order for us to be able to defeat the beast at hand, we have to have equal or opposing force that supersedes whatever is going on. And so capitalistic thought in the form of white racist American capitalism has been the primary driver of our subjugation. But based on the laws of nature and inertia, we need something that either supersedes capitalism to apply as an equal or overwhelming force in order to change the direction of its current implementation. And in light of no other system of social, political, economic rule or control as world domineering as capitalism, I think capitalism is the best method for us to create leverage to be able to change our paths. If you look at cities like Atlanta, Georgia, or Washington, D.C., these are cities that have the highest Black businesses. They have the lowest Black employment. They also have, the biggest say as far as Blacks in political, not Washington, D.C., but cities like Atlanta or cities like Detroit. We actually have the most, population to control the political narrative. So in having capitalism, we're actually own the properties that we live in, and we're actually able to dictate what happens there compared to living in somebody else's neighborhood territory or working at somebody else's jobs where they have complete power and control over what goes on. My case isn't against capitalism in general. My case is just simply affirming that Black people will enjoy benefits and currently do enjoy benefits from being able to build off of Black power and Black energy and Black location. I mean, they did it before us. It's time for us to stick to get in there and do it for ourselves. We have to build for ourselves because what's going on is they're using their capital at play to keep us bounded up. They went and got all the properties so that we stay on their property. Now it's time that we have to have the property for ourselves so that we can dictate how things go on our property. And even being inside this American system, property rights are
Sorry about that. So we'll now pair the negative closing statement from Kenny. You have 3 minutes.
That was a good question, man. Why are we seeking from others that which we should be providing ourselves? To be governed is to be watched over, inspected, spied on, directed, legislated, regimented, closed in, indoctrinated, preached at, controlled, assessed, evaluated, censored, commanded. All creatures that neither have the right, nor the wisdom, nor the virtue. Black movement should be born of a moral protest against oppression and injustice, with the goal of a free society which brings all human beings to realize their full potential. While some choose to enslave us to a wage and price system, I advocate that the people manage the society in the spirit of mutualism, where we work for the benefit of humankind and meet those goals through cooperative, not competitive means. We don't have to invest our futures into Washington politics and politicians so concerned with their political power. A society where education is maximized, where education is actually valued as success, where the question is not, how can I make $1 billion from the labor of the poor, but the question of what other people's needs and producing the results. Why we should study for the needs of humanity and the economic means to satisfy them. And as I told my opponent earlier, work should be considered to be exactly what it is, the free faculties of a man's labor for the group, and not a society where the poor are excluded from the ordinary living patterns, customs, and activities of life. In a nutshell, poverty creates disadvantages to people. For every one person you can say that has a job, there is one person that is created poor. Poverty is not, in a sense, some moral character flaw within certain people. It is the methods of the mechanisms in this machine. And I think that once we decide to work with each other for the mutual benefit of each other, then we'll see a change in our direction and our behavior in the world. But to rival it with a black Jeff Bezos and a black Walmart and a Amazon Prime would spin this world into a greater disaster than it's already in. We're going to win this by being the bigger people, y'all, not by playing them in that game. You understand? And that's all I.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Brian and Kenny, for participating in the Great Debate League. As always, we had a very intense discussion on a critical issue, and we were able to learn from both of our presenters. Now, to wrap this up, we ask that you please use our new scorecard to let us know how you scored each participant's performance. This is a quick form that should only take you 2 minutes to complete. Please score each debater performance in presenting the following. The first is fact-based arguments, and that means they provided facts to support their arguments. Their subject matter expertise, so they demonstrated understanding to the subject matter at hand. Their level of persuasiveness, was it logical and convincing arguments? Their elocution, which means did they have a clear and effective communication? And lastly, on their rebuttals, did they address their opponent's arguments? Thank you, audience, for watching and submitting questions. We need your support to keep this program running. Please donate to our Cash App so that we may continue to grow. Also, please check us out on YouTube and subscribe. Lastly, please become a member of our Patreon page. Lastly, we would like to thank the sponsor of this evening's events, Call Her Creative. Please join us after this broadcast for the post-debate analysis, which will start shortly. Have a great night, and remember to always speak the truth.